What if we maybe just start off with some elaboration on some of the priority actions required to improve mining competitiveness? Maybe if we could start from a global standpoint and maybe sort of lead into a focus on South Africa specifically, if possible.
One topic that is called COVID-19, which has been, for good reason, top of mind over the past year. I think that globally mining companies actually have done a good job in keeping their employees safe, in making sure that their production, their own supply chains are as resilient as possible. I think they continue on the same path till vaccines are rolled out, and hopefully soon the pandemic comes to a stop. I think, however, if we reflect about COVID, it might have been in some cases an accelerator for development, but I wouldn't see it as something that should overshadow everything else. Because ultimately, from a global perspective, there are a range of topics and a range of priorities. The mining industry has started to address before COVID, continue to address during COVID, and definitely should continue to work on for the years to come. I think there are a couple of very specific aspects that the mining industry is thinking about, and that is top of mind of CEOs. I mean, it obviously starts with the future commodities, so questions around portfolios. Where do I do exploration? Which minerals, which metals do I want to focus on? So talking about the muted appetite for coal, a strong appetite for copper, for battery metals like nickel and like lithium. I think beyond this broader portfolio topic, there is a very strong emphasis on the ESG space, so transforming mining companies into sustainable players. And I think what is there often overlooked, that in ESG, there is substantially more than just the E, just the environment, which is an important part, and which basically speaks about how can we reduce, as mining companies, reduce the carbon footprint. How can we decarbonize our supply chains and our value chains from a broader perspective? So going upstream, talking about electricity supply, but also going downstream and offering products that minimize the carbon dioxide emissions in downstream processes. But I think there is an important element that speaks around sustainability from a social perspective. So the role of mining companies in the host communities, the development of labor markets, of skill markets, because ultimately mining companies need those skills to operate. At the same time, they have an accountability to build their communities and to develop their communities. So that basically the mining companies leave back, once they move on, a place that is substantially better than when they found it. I think that's on the ESG topic. Then obviously, and this actually speaks to COVID again, there is a increased awareness of risk management, which speaks to elements like COVID, but also which speaks to elements like natural disasters, community unrest, because mining companies got aware COVID, some of them, they were caught pretty much on a cold feet. And this raised the awareness. We need to think about our own resilience. We need to make sure that we have plans in place if other disruptors happen in the future, to make sure that the sustainability and the continuation of the operations is ensured. Then there is a continued push on the digital front. And digital, to quite some degree, speaks to productivity and it speaks to safety. And this has been a topic out there for years. And I think now the mining industry has reached a point where it starts to professionalize. So where quite some mining companies experimented with pilots of analytics, have infrastructure in place, communication networks and the like, to actually be able to tap into the full potential of digital. And here again, both for productivity purposes and for safety purposes. And I would also say the digital element plays a role in another priority, which is the future of work. So how do we actually set up our organizational and operating model in the years to come? And here COVID played an accelerator role because COVID showed quite some mining companies that to a large degree, certain activities can indeed be conducted remotely. You don't need to be physically on site, which has a positive impact for the company as it reduces cost of accommodation, as it allows it to easier source talent because people can stay in the comfort of cities or in the comfort of their homes even. And it has advantages for employees. I mean, the same counts for them. They don't need to travel. They don't need to leave families behind or kind of like force their families to move with them to remote locations. And obviously, there's a safety aspect that if you're not exposed to the physical environment of a mine, then a priori, the risk is taken away. I think those are the elements that I've heard in discussions with mining companies from a global perspective. There are many others, but I would say those are really the key elements that are top of mind for the mining companies. The global priorities, pretty much the majority, one-on-one applies to South Africa. I would say with a couple of nuances there. I mean, aspects around the future of work, sourcing talent, taking care for the communities, rolling out digital, thinking about the portfolio, they're applicable. However, to some degree, there are obvious limitations to the South African mining industry when it comes to the portfolio. I mean, what is not in the ground cannot be mined. And I think this ties in with a problem that has been discussed also now for quite some time, that to some degree, there is not full transparency of what is in the ground in South Africa. So are there copper deposits? Are there lithium sources? Could there be cobalt sources, et cetera, et cetera? And this is, I think, a push the mining companies in collaboration with the government further need to strengthen to actually get awareness around what is there. And then I would say the element around digital, because the perception I would say in South Africa is that digital modernization of mining is a killer of jobs. And I think this perception is fundamentally wrong because ultimately it allows mining companies to continue to operate. And showing the ability that modernization in South Africa is possible will attract new investments. And it also offers opportunities to upskill employees, bring them out of the pit or out of the shaft, into office spaces where they can conduct their work, in some cases conduct it remotely. So I think this modernization aspect, despite the pushback from stakeholder groups, is the crucial element to get right, because so much depends on it, basically. Then I would say there is an element that is impacting the South African mining industry, which is around the perception. And I don't think much has changed there, unfortunately. As of today, South Africa is not yet seen as an attractive investment location for mining investors. And I think the push has to be done to change this perception, because a lot of action has been taken. I don't think yet it has landed in the minds of investors. And to get there, what I mentioned before, the ability to show it's possible to set up very modern mining operations in line with it's possible to operate in a stable environment. And this speaks to security of electricity supply, where progress has been made. This speaks to the stability of legislation, where progress has been made. It is now about bringing this message out and actually attracting investment to sustain the mining industry.
Just lastly, I'd sort of like to just move back to COVID-19 and sort of everything that connects to that. I mean, do you have any suggestions or thoughts on how mining companies should plan for and how they can help deploy vaccines for their workforce and their surrounding communities once those are actually available?
There may be briefly reflecting on the good job that I think basically all mining companies have done in keeping their employees safe, caring for their communities in COVID crisis with many measures, by putting protocols in place, by making transportation safer to reduce infections there, by providing their medical facilities to treat patients that were infected with COVID. And those are certainly things that need to carry on and that will carry on till a broader rollout of the vaccine can happen. I think mining companies have the advantage that they have deep expertise in dealing with situations that are comparable to COVID. And when it comes to injections, to vaccines, I mean, thinking about the efforts mining companies put into treating HIV, tuberculosis, and this is certainly an experience and the asset base, so to say, that they can leverage. I think the MINCOSA, the Minerals Council, also made great efforts in the vaccine discussion to commit resources and to commit also facilities to roll out the vaccination. I think that the key element there is that mining companies have health facilities, have the staff and the cold chains and the logistics chains, etc., to distribute the vaccine doses and to inject the vaccine doses. And I think they can play a vital role there, and I'm quite certain they will. It's for the employees, but then it's also for the surrounding communities, where they have basically the facilities in place, also and especially in rural areas, to reach as many people as possible as soon as sufficient doses of the vaccine are available.